Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with day 3 of the 12 days of Christmas. Today, we are working on woodland or rustic Christmas decor. It can be ornaments or anything else that you want in your home. Our hosts are Brenda with Rustic and Lace DIY and Jackie with Crafting in Mimi's World. The links to their description Links to their channels are in my description box below, as well as a playlist for all the other creators that are doing this collab. Now, the crafts that I am doing will be in my craft shows in November. So I am creating bunches of one type of Christmas craft for you. So let's get started. So I have a meat slicer here. It has a bread blade, everything blade, ham blade. It wasn't very expensive. This I have gotten off of Amazon. And I have some apples. Now I have a bowl of water with about 1 tablespoon of vinegar to every 2 cups of water. And that's going to help my apples stay the color that I want them to stay. I'm going to slice them, and now I'm going to dry them off. And once we get those sliced and dried, I'm going to go ahead and powder up some cinnamon on these apples. So there's all those apples, nice and dry. And now I'm going to bring in just a small little rice bowl and some generic Walmart cinnamon, because you don't need anything fancy for this. This is going to be just giving that cinnamon smell to those apples so that you've got that aroma in your house coming from your tree. So when I get the apples, I'm just dusting one side. I'm just laying it flat in the cinnamon, one side of the apple slice only. And once I get those all in there and laid upon my dehydrator, I forgot to punch holes in them for the ribbons. So I'm just using a wide straw here, and I am poking a hole through the top of each of those apple slices. Then I'm going to come in with a skewer and poke out that apple so that I can continue moving along. Okay, so now we have right here, I'm going to do the temperature, 135, and now I'm going to do the time. Time, I'm going to set it for 9 hours. Put my lid on it and start. And now you can hear it. It started, it's very quiet, it's not loud, and now that can just sit here on my little island and do its thing. All right, now these are done, and I did have to put them on for another 3 hours, so I just let them go overnight. This machine actually turns off on its own, so I didn't have to worry about that. Come back in the morning, and I'm just pulling them right off their tray. Look at that. And putting them in a Tupperware bowl. So now I have some ribbon here that I'm going to use to tie up on some of those apple pieces. Have some Tight Bond Quick and Thick multi-surface glue and my apple slices. I want to make sure that any loose cinnamon is off of those. And then I'm going to come in with my glue and some Star of Annie's Star. Hope I'm saying that right. Anyway, I'm going to put one whole piece in the center of my apple slices here. So I'm just going to use that Tight Bond glue, and I'm going to put some on the back and then lay that right on top of my apple slice. I did break off any extra stems that were hanging over just so I'd have a flat bottom to lay down. And that Tight Bond glues clear, so I don't have to worry about the look of these actually changing or leaving a residue. That's why I put it on the back of the star instead of on the apple slice itself. So I did two looks on these apple slices. I did some with the star, and these I'm going to be doing with jingle bells. So the star apples, I went ahead and used a brown velvet rope on, brown velvet ribbon. Sorry about that. And on the ones I'm going to put the rusty bells on, I'm using a red velvet ribbon. I cut these at 8 inches long, strung them through my apple where I punched that hole, and then tied a knot at the tip of that ribbon. And I did the same thing with the brown and the stars so that they would all be uniform and they'd all have the same length ribbon on it. For the red ones, I'm coming in with some jute and I'm cutting that down at 8 inches. And that is what I'm going to attach my bells with. I have a punch here that is a leather punch and it has a hole in this particular piece. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to use that right in the center of my apple. And that creates the perfect size hole that I need to string my jute through for my bells. So these bells I got, I believe, off of Amazon, and I've had them for quite some time. I use old deli meat containers to put store stuff like that so I can see them. Out of sight, out of mind for me, guys. I have to be able to see what's in the container, or I just scooch on over it. So if it's a closed container, I have to label it. But anyway, I took that jute and I threaded it through the tip of my bell, and I tied just a loose tie on the bottom of that, thread both ends of that jute through my apple center, and then on the other side of that, I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow. And it's just a little bow like you would be tying your shoes, a little shoestring bow. And that just gives me a little something on the back of that apple that is also not, it's not blank. I didn't do anything on the star backs, but I really like that bell right there on the front of the red ones. And here's what they look like. So I wanted something to store these in and display at my craft show. And when I was upstairs in my craft storage, I walked by and I seen these Pringle cans. I save these and I've had these for some time. I will get them and I'll pack them in my husband's lunch. Say, please don't throw these away. That's the only time he really gets Pringles is when I have a project idea in mind for it. So I painted the outside of those Pringles container in my plaster chalk paint. And I have these rub-on transfers that I had gotten off of Amazon. Guys, they are really sticky and they are not as flat as most transfers. So they do have a little bit of dimension to them. And I don't quite like that, but for what I was doing, it worked out perfect. So I just went through and I painted on one of the can. I did a sponging technique of my Nimbus, and that's what I'm going to use these blue ones on. And on the other one, I used a sponge technique right there with my sandstone. And all I did was take that little sponge dauber and come in and daub across the surface. So here I have my Mod Podge in matte, and I'm just going over and putting a nice seal all over my Pringles paint, my Pringles can that I painted. And then I'm going to hit it a little bit with my heat gun. I don't want to hit it too long because that is not, I mean, it's a paper container. Now I do strengthen it up a little bit by adding the Mod Podge and the paint to it, but I want it to, I needed to be careful as I was doing that with the heat. So I'm coming in with some of my transfers and I'm just trimming off any extra around the outside edges because like I said, this is actually very sticky. And I did have some issues with some paint pulling up when I was pulling off my transfer. And that was on the other can. But this one I didn't seem to have the problem with. And I'm wondering, I mean, both of the transfers are from the same company, but these actually pulled up easier and did not damage my paint, even with the Mod Podge down. like the other one did. I had to come in and do some touch-ups on that. So I'm just bringing in the items that I actually picked out in these transfer sets. And this one is very rustic. I've got the moose out there, and I'm just laying these letters here that say peace, because that nimbus on that plaster looks like a gray sky, maybe a snowy background. And then that house and that moose, it looks so peaceful in that scenery. And so I just thought this would make it, it would just give it a little extra pizzazz for me. I just really like the way it turned out. All right, so once I got all of those on there and the outer coating peeled off, I went ahead and made sure it was burnished down nicely, and I came back in with another coat of Mod Podge. I wanted to seal these up again, and here you can see both of my cans. And just coming in with that Mod Podge over the top, sealing in those images on top of my can. I am just loving how these turned out. They are just beautiful. I really like this. I was it's like, thank you, Lord, for giving me the idea to use these cans to actually present some of these. So here are my cans, and they're dried. And look at that. They're so pretty. I love it. So each of these cans will fit 6 apple slice ornaments. How perfect is that? So I'm putting 6 of the star ones in one and 6 of the bell ones in the other. So I wanted to pizzazz the lid up a little bit. So I did 28 inches of this red plaid ribbon, and I'm putting that on the Believe the Magic, because I just thought that it helped to accent any of the red that was on the outside of my can now in those transfers that I decorated. And so I'm using my Fabri-Tac glue, and this worked awesome. It dries really pretty quick. You don't have to hold it too long. You see, I just pinched it and it held it there, and I didn't have to worry about it. So for the other one, I have this khaki and blue, and I thought, oh, that blue is going to pull out any of those blues that I have on the images on that particular can. And so I just went ahead and cut out the same 28 inches, added that Fabri-Tac around that lid rim, and then held it and pinched it together. Once those were ready, you see how, I didn't have to hold it long. I just came back in and gave it a tie. I just did a little knot there. I wanted it to sit up so I could actually do it. So I just placed some things beside it so it wouldn't roll around on me. And I just tied a little shoestring bow and trimmed up any excess that I needed to trim off. Now, normally I would have glued down what I wanted these to kind of lay as, but this is a lid and it has to come up and off of our container. So I just trimmed it, and there we have it. I did the same thing on the blue one here. Oh, I am so happy with the way these turned out. You guys are going to have to let me know if you like this. Give me an apple emoji in the comments below, because I just think this is a wonderful idea. And what easier way to store these in your own Christmas items, but to keep them in a Pringles can. And this actually helps because it will give us an airtight container. So if you store in a basement where it's kind of damp, you're not going to have these apples going limp on you. They're going to remain firm, because if you're in an area that has high moisture, you're going to get a little bit more of that moisture into your apples, and they will go limp. So make sure that you're storing them in an airtight container, Ziploc bag, or whatever. But I think that's adorable. What do you think about the containers? Look at how adorable those turned out. And just to think that we've got those apples on the inside, I just love it. I just love it. Tell me what you think, guys.
And there you have it, day number 3 with our rustic Christmas ornaments here. I made 2 dozen of these adorable apple slices with the anise star and the rusty bells. So guys, let me know what you think about this. I think they turned out adorable. And my little pencil tree here is filling up nicely. So guys, if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate that. And if you've not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing so by hitting that subscribe button now. It does help my channel grow, and this is the only job I do. So, like, subscribe, share, comment. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link, and that will be in the description box below as well if you'd like to support my channel financially. As always, guys, your time is so precious, and I do appreciate you spending your day with me. As always, stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.